Coming up on the Paper Talk today, we're going to be talking about Marcus Rashford. Why not? We've not spoken about Marcus Rashford for ages. He made his debut for Aston Villa. I know what you're thinking. Why are we talking about Marcus Rashford? He doesn't play for Manchester United anymore. Well, we're talking about him because everyone else is. He made his debut for Aston Villa. Thought he did okay. A lot of people speaking about that. A lot of people speaking about how he played, the energy he showed, whether he's sort of showing more enthusiasm for Aston Villa than he showed at Manchester United. Also, he did a post on social media, shock horror, and Jadon Sancho replied to it, which seems to have angered a lot of people as well, the way that Jadon Sancho replied to Marcus Rashford's social media post, if you can keep up with all this nonsense. So we'll be getting into that. Plus, we'll have some transfer news. Manchester United being linked with a Wolves player. You know who it is. We've been linked with him in the past. We could be back in for him in the summer because he does have a buyout clause. Plus, we're being linked with another defender that we've been linked with in the past as well. It's all happening, isn't it? It's all players that we've been linked with, or players that used to play for us. So we'll be getting into all that. Let's get into it. Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, I'm outside Old Trafford and it's spitting. Get them in. If you're not doing so already, make sure you are hitting like, share and subscribe to the channel. We want to get to 800,000 subscribers. And with your support, yes, you, we can get there. A few stories doing the rounds this morning. The big sort of story, social media story, I should say, the one that most people are talking about online, is Marcus Rashford's debut for Aston Villa. He came on as a second half substitute, sort of halfway, I think it was, through the second half yesterday. Aston Villa's FA Cup game against Tottenham Hotspur, and there's been a lot of noise around that, a lot of talk about it, a lot of dissecting, analysing his performance. Personally, I don't think you can take too much from it. You can tell too much from it. Yes, he did look like he was sort of energised, if you will. He did put the effort in and even won a couple of headers, which surprised a lot of people because he's often been criticised for not doing that enough here at Old Trafford. But it was a solid cameo. I don't think you can look too much into it, like I just said, but a lot of people saying, oh, why does he look like he can be bothered now? Why does he look like he can win headers and he couldn't do it at Old Trafford? You're going to get that with Marcus Rashford. I think anytime he does something positive for Aston Villa, people are going to question why he wasn't doing that for Manchester United. Now, I spoke about this the other day, yesterday, when it comes to some of our players that have gone out on loan, and I mentioned it about Anthony. Anthony looks like he's doing all right at Real Betis. I think he's got a couple of man of the match performances or awards, and he's even scored a goal. It's a lot different playing for Real Betis for Manchester United, and I'd even say it's a lot different playing for Aston Villa than it is playing for Manchester United, but it's far too early to tell. Villa are a big club, yes, and they're better than us, they're above us in the league by quite some distance at the minute as well, but the pressure, the expectation at Manchester United is different. We know that Marcus Rashford had issues. That's well documented. If Marcus Rashford was happy and playing as well as he could be playing, he'd be still here at Old Trafford playing for Manchester United, but he isn't because there's a lot of things going on with Marcus Rashford. I hope he does well at Aston Villa. I think it's for the best if he gets a permanent move and then everyone's happy, although some people don't seem to be too happy with even him doing a little bit well, or doing a little bit well, that doesn't make any sense, doing well for Aston Villa. Some people already criticising him for that. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I hope Marcus Rashford gets back to his best. I hope he gets a permanent move, and I hope Manchester United use that money and reinvest it in areas of the squad that need strengthening. First things first, we need a striker. We know we've got issues there up front. The sort that the manager kept the players behind after the Leicester game on Friday. Pretty woeful game. Yes, we got the win, and a win is a win, but it wasn't one for the ages, was it? And you can see our strikers are struggling. Rasmus Højlund looks like he's lost a lot of confidence. Now, he's still young, and I hope he can get his confidence back and get back to that player we saw at times last season when he was banging in goals in the Champions League, and that period over Christmas where he was scoring loads of goals in the Premier League as well. But there are question marks there. There's question marks about Joshua Zirkzee, of course, because he's not exactly a goal scorer. Chido Obi is probably too young to make an impact even next season. Might make a bit of an impact, but is he someone that can come in and start every game for Manchester United next season? Probably not. So we do need a striker, and if you're going to buy a striker, then you need to get some money in, and one area you could get money in is potentially selling Marcus Rashford to Aston Villa. So I want to see him performing, and I want to see him get that permanent move. Another little thing before we move on from Marcus, because let's face facts, we all want to. Jadon Sancho replied to Marcus Rashford's post. Marcus Rashford did an Instagram post, just sort of the bog standard fare when you go to a new club, talking about, I'm paraphrasing, but great to be in a team, great reception, all that sort of jazz. And then Jadon Sancho replied saying, freedom, with like that sort of emoji. Really? Freedom? Was he a prisoner here at Manchester United? Any need for that, Jadon? Seems a bit petty to me, bit moody. Yeah, and a lot of people have picked up on it and are not too happy with it. And I think we all know that Jadon Sancho didn't work out at Manchester United. He's actually not even working out at Chelsea in a minute. Spoke about this yesterday. A lot of Chelsea fans have turned against him after his performance against Brighton in the FA Cup was described as woeful and lacklustre by a lot of Chelsea fans. But I digress. It just seems a little bit like a reminder for me why perhaps Jadon Sancho didn't work out at Manchester United. Just this nonsense, it does my head in a little bit. And I don't want to look too much into it, but when people see that, and when I saw it trending on social media, I was a bit like, is there any need? Freedom, come on. Maybe I'm looking too much into it. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Let us know what you think about Marcus Rashford playing for Aston Villa, about Jadon Sancho's reply to it, and about where Manchester United needs to strengthen as well, and whether selling Marcus Rashford could fund some potential incomings in the summer. One potential incoming in the summer is Matheus Cunha. Now, I know what you're going to say, Jay, just signed a new deal at Aston Villa. I think he's signed, Aston Villa, start again. Just signed a new deal at Wolves. I think he's got a new contract that's going to keep him there to, 2029 or something. How are we going to get him? Well, according to reports, he's got a £62.5 million buyout clause. Now, I think it was Fabrizio Romano who was chatting the other day, and he said that potentially Manchester United could go back in for Cunha in the summer. I say go back in, or we've shown a bit of interest. I don't think we actually put a bid in, but we could do that in the summer. Now, Cunha is a very exciting player. He reminded us what he's capable of against Manchester United. He causes all sorts of problems, and you would expect him, no disrespect to Wolves, but to move on eventually if he keeps putting in the level of performances he has this season. However, have Manchester United got £62.5 million to spend on a player that, yes, he's in a position where we may need someone, but it's not as essential as other areas. I think Cunha could be one of those 10s that Ruben Amorim likes to use, doesn't he? He has these wing-backs, he has his two central midfielders, he has his two 10s, and then he has his striker. Perhaps Cunha could operate in one of those positions. I think he could. Now, a big question might be, do we have enough personnel there already? Is Mason Mount an option there? I was talking about this the other day. We don't know what's happening with Mason Mount in terms of long-term. Short-term, he's still not been playing for Manchester United. He's still injured. Does the manager see a future for Mason Mount at this club? Do you? Let me know in the comments in the chat, because I said the other day, maybe it's time to move on from Mason Mount. Maybe we just have to see if we can get some money for him in the summer. And a lot of people push back on that, saying, come on, Jay, the kid's been injured, he's not had a chance, he's a good player. I get all that. It's just, he's been here for what? A season and a half? He's not really done anything. I know it's not his fault, because he's been injured. But the fact of the matter is, he hasn't done a thing for Manchester United, really and truly. Is it 2 goals, maybe? I think I can remember the one at Brentford, I might be forgetting one. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a good player, he is. But he's not been an effective player for Manchester United. He's been injured, and when he's not been injured, when he has played, I dare say been a little bit underwhelmed. Now, yes, if he gets back to full fitness, he does seem like the type of player that can operate in one of those 10s and do a job for Manchester United, but there's lots of ifs and buts, and this move hasn't worked out. It's not his fault we gave him the number 7 shirt, which is a bit ridiculous, to be honest with you, just adding on more pressure to a player that probably doesn't need it. But could you get any money for him in the summer if he did decide that he wasn't for you? Maybe you could get a little bit. Sounds a bit harsh, doesn't it, getting rid of a player who's not really had much of a career at Manchester United so far, much of a chance really because of injuries. Well, he has had some. I think he's played about 40 games, hasn't he, Mason Mount? I think he's played more games than you'd expect. I know a lot of them haven't been starts. So it'd be interesting to see what Ruben Amorim does. If Ruben Amorim looks at it and goes, look, maybe I can get 20 million for Mason Mount. Am I being hopeful there? Let me know what you think. Maybe get 40 million for Marcus Rashford. Maybe we can get the likes of Casemiro off the wage bill. What's going to happen with Luke Shaw, Christian Eriksen, some of those other players? I know Luke Shaw's got a contract till 2027. Is he going to stay at the club? If we can get some money in, if we can shift a few players, do we go in for someone like Matheus Cunha? Or is the priority going to be a striker? Are we able to do both? Also, are we still in for a defender? There's a few reports doing the rounds this morning as well, saying that we're still looking at potentially bringing in defenders in the summer, a defender in the summer window. Jared Branthwaite rumours still don't go away. That could be a potential incoming. Can we afford all these players? What is going to happen, especially when you look at PSR as well, because that is obviously a big thing too. So lots of ifs and buts and maybes. Maybe Cunha comes in. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe Marcus Rashford gets a permanent move to Aston Villa. Maybe he doesn't. Let me know what you think. Get involved in the chat in the comments. Going to be back later on today with the Paddock podcast. I'm Jay. This has been the Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.